What's up, you beauties? Welcome to High and Wide Hockey YouTube channel, episode 28 of season 7. I'm your host, Jim Microphone, joined as always by Jack Smith. And if you're catching us live on YouTube, make sure you smash the subscribe button, hit the alert so you never miss a show. For all the podcast listeners out there, don't forget to subscribe on Apple Podcast or Spotify so you're first in line when the newest episodes drop. If you're new, if you haven't done it already, give us a subscribe. Help us on our quest to 1,000 subscribers. I believe before the show, we checked and we're at 901. So we're Wayne Gretzky away from 1,000. And it seems a little bit relevant. We'll definitely talk some Wayne Gretzky in the grade 8 later on in the show. Something happened over the weekend, Jack.
Just a little something.
Oddly enough, it happened while I was golfing. And if you're a hockey fan and a golf lover, Hockey has just dropped the perfect blend of style and performance, our brand new HW golf hats. Whether you're hitting the links or just repping your favorite hockey brand off the ice, these hats are designed for comfort, breathability, and that clean, classic look. With the sleek fit and embroidered HW logo, you'll be turning heads while sinking putts. Don't miss out. Keep it high and wide all summer long before they're gone. Venmo at HW Hockey and make sure to send over your mailing address so we can ship out your HW gear. If I can, at some point during the show, I'll get the Venmo barcode up there for you guys. You could just scan it and make it a little easier. But Jack, a lot happened over the weekend. The Flyers are in action as we speak. They're taking on the New York Rangers in New York. We'll get that game on as soon as it returns from intermission in the second period. But, let's kind of kick off the show with the events that took place over the weekend, also in New York, with Alex Ovechkin, Jack, finally breaking Wayne Gretzky's goal record and scoring goal 895 up there in Long Island. I mean, were you able to watch the game live? I didn't watch the game live.
No, I don't even remember where I was Sunday, but I was definitely busy. Yeah. And my phone went off and I had to see how it happened. And, obviously Sorokin, all the stats that come out are just wild. How he ties the record one game shy, beats the record one game more, or the same amount of games as Gretzky, rather. Never scored against Sorokin. That's who he gets the big one against. Just absolutely wild. You knew it was going to happen, a matter of time. I mean, a lot of people that aren't really into hockey who are talking about this and heard about it for obvious reasons, they always ask me, is he the greatest goal scorer of all time? And to me, I'm like, hands down, it's not even close. And I'll obviously see how you, Jim, if anybody in the chat wants to say, but it was really, really easy to score in the 80s comparatively. And Ovechkin had his rookie seasons robbed from him with the full season lockout. There was another half season lockout in 2015. You had COVID kind of screw with 2 different seasons. I mean, if everything goes smooth, I think Gretzky maybe had 1 half season lockout. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's pretty much all there was. He'd be probably 1,000-ish right now if he didn't lose so much time. So, and it's so much harder to score in today's game than it was in the. I will say towards the end of Gretzky's career, it definitely got a little bit harder. But the other thing is, I don't remember how old Gretzky was when he retired. I think Ovechkin's 39. Gretzky's last season, he scored 9 goals, and it's one of the reasons he retired. Couldn't really score anymore, and he loves to score. Gretzky's roughly the same age. Was he at 42, 43 goals this season? Absolutely wild. Playing with a broken leg for most of the season, missing the minimal amount of time. He's an absolute warrior. He's the greatest goal scorer of all time. It's only a matter of time. Good for him. And hopefully Michkov surpasses him.
Yeah. So I guess in my lifetime that I've watched, Alex Ovechkin would be the greatest goal scorer that I've ever seen. There were a lot of people the very next day, Mike Bossy and this and that. And I never got to watch Mike Bossy. I don't think I've ever taken time out of my life to go back and watch Mike Bossy clips. And that's I don't mean any offense by that to any of the older guys that have watched Bossy or any Islanders fans that might be tuning in. I just never watched them. I never had interest watching them. I don't really have interest in watching the Islanders in general. So Alex Ovechkin is the greatest goal scorer that I've ever watched. I mean, we watched Gretzky when we were younger, but I wouldn't say, I don't have memories of Gretzky scoring goals. I just remember watching him kind of thing towards the end, like with the Rangers there. Ovechkin he murdered the Flyers throughout his career, him and Crosby. And in the way that he did it, and I'm curious to hear your opinion on this, he had an opportunity to break it the night that he scored 2 goals, the night that he tied it. And the Capitals head coach, whose name escapes me now, asked him, hey, do you want to go out and potentially score on the empty net? And Ovechkin kind of waved it off. Because I guess he wanted to score it on an actual goalie, or maybe he had this all planned out in his head. I have a chance to score on my buddy, my Russian buddy in the island in New York, and I want to score on a goalie. I don't want to just put it in an empty net. Jack, would it have mattered to you if he scored on an empty net, or do you see him a little differently for that, or what did you make of that?
I don't think it would have mattered, but I do appreciate he wanted to beat the goalie for that goal. I think that's what it came down to. That's what he's known for. He's not. I know he started racking up some empty netters as Gretzky, but he's known for beating the goalie, being an absolute menace to goalies, especially in Philly. And he wanted the record-breaking goal to be that goal, be a goal where he beats the goalie. And I would too, to be honest with you. So he knows he's going to get it. A little ballsy at the end of the year. You can always get hurt. Not many games left, but I don't think he cares about that. And he knew he was going to score. He was hot. So kudos to him for making it a really good, memorable goal like that, not some kind of tap-in empty netter. So I don't view him differently. I wouldn't have viewed him differently if it was an empty netter, but it's going to look better when years come when they show that goal against a goalie instead of some.
Yeah, you know what? That's a great point. I didn't think about it that way. When they go back and show the record-breaking goal in the future, it's a little cooler that it was an actual goal instead of just kind of skating in.
Right, and they showed Gretzky's tonight against I forget who it was against, but he was with the Rangers, and they showed it, and it was against a goalie. So that's what you want. It's what you want. These guys are showmen. You gotta go all the way, and I appreciate that.
Yep. I thought it was interesting also, the celebration. And I know it's a pretty big deal to celebrate. Ovechkin kind of did the swan dive on his belly over there. And it just made me think about the comments, the Michkov comments from earlier in the year. It's like, all right, only Ovechkin's allowed to have fun here or what? I know he's breaking the goal record.
I agree with that. I mean, it kind of reminds me, maybe it's a Capitals thing, or like Kuznetsov scored the year they went to win the cup. They eliminated the Penguins in the second round. It was like, I don't know if it was game 7. It was either game 6 or game 7, overtime goal. They eliminate the Penguins, go to the Eastern Conference Finals, and he does I'm like, he's just like, what? Who taunts the other team when you eliminate them from the playoffs and move on? Like, I've never seen that. It was so weird. And yeah, the way Ovechkin talked about the hot stick thing he was doing years ago. He had the hot stick, and he's going like, "Oh, I can't touch the stick." Like it's nothing that bothers me, but the swan dive was a little silly. I was like, "That's what you do when you." I was like, "Whatever." I'm not the goal scorer, you are, but not at all what I expected. Everything that followed was fantastic. Everything leading up to it was fantastic. The little dive and slide was a little silly, but it's also Ovechkin. Yeah. What you said with the whole Michkov comments is it's like, yeah, this is why those comments were very stupid. So whatever.
Yeah, anytime a player is going to show emotion and things like that, it's especially if it's positive emotion, sign me up, so all right. We also have some Flyers news to get to in our show tonight. Excuse me. If you can't tell by now, this is my sick game. This is my flu game. I don't know if I have the flu or not, but Jack, Flyers legendary GM Ray Shero passed away today.
So, yeah, son of a former head coach of the Flyers, Stanley Cup winning Flyers, Fred Shero. Mm-hmm. I don't think he was ever GM with the Flyers, but he was with the Penguins and the Devils, I believe. I don't know if anywhere else. I'm not sure. But only 62 years old, so that is unfortunate. That's way too young. And, yeah, he's the son of, absolute Flyers legend, something of a legend in his own right. I believe he's got at least a cup with the Penguins or something of that nature. So just rather sudden. I didn't know anything about it. Pretty sad. He's got connections to the team. So just thought we'd drop that. That's just unfortunate. So Is what
Yeah,
it is.
he was. I didn't think he was that old in age either, so that was kind of a surprise when I saw that.
Yeah, I wasn't sure myself, and then I saw 62, and I was like, it's still too young.
Yeah.
Yikes. I didn't read into why or what happened. I just kind of got the news. It was like, that's a shame.
Yep. All right, so let's kind of go down our list of topics. We do have some big topics, some big discussion topics that I'm sure if you've seen the title of the episode, the thumbnail of the episode, we want to know your big moves, your big trades. Who's your big fish? Who do you guys want in the offseason? Jack and I are going to discuss that in about 20 minutes, I would say. So if you're watching live, drop your trades in the comments. We'll get to them during the show.
Get wild.
Yeah,
wild. Like when we discuss this, we don't want the typical things that may actually happen. And we want, like, if they were going for it this year, or they were just going all in on some player, who was that player? Who was that crazy deal? I tried to stay away from the restricted free agents because there's other options there. Just think about it. Who are these? What Flyers sending some kind of ridiculous offer and getting some kind of absolute stud? Who is that player for you? I guess try to make it somewhat reasonable. The player actually might be available. Like, oh, they give all this for Draisaitl. Like, nothing like that. But, maybe something that could be feasible. Who could that player be, and what could they possibly give up? Because we don't have no idea what's going to go on, but they got a lot of ammunition this offseason. So see what you got and pop it in the chat.
Yeah, let's get nuts. And I want to preface also by saying that, like, no trade tonight doesn't make sense. I don't care what, let's say, for example, the Ottawa Senators need or want. I don't care. If we want Brady Tkachuk, let's talk about a possible trade as Flyers fans, And if there are Sens fans watching, comment what it would take. Comment who you would want for Brady Tkachuk or whatever, Like, this is good stuff here from Vegas and Dan just tossing out players there. Excuse me, but we'll have fun with it. We'll have fun. We'll get to some of our other topics here before we get there. Speaking of new players, Jack, Karsen Dorwart made his debut with the Philadelphia Flyers, a NCAA free agent signing. I believe this is his second game tonight. Have you been able to watch any of them?
I really haven't noticed him yet tonight too much. I was kind of getting everything ready. Against Montreal, I guess the only thing I would say, I believe he had 2 hits, 2 shots, didn't really look out of place. I guess the only positive I can really think of is he looked a little bit, I don't want to say faster at the skater, because I believe he was average, was like the talk. He looked like niftier, like swifter, which was nice. It's good to see. Could have just been first game kind of jitters thing or adrenaline or whatnot, but I don't have anything negative to report, all things considered, which is good. He's a center. You need a center. See what you got, and it's I'm glad we got a free asset. Those are always great, and it's a position of need, and can't complain.
No. Yeah, he's definitely has some wheels. I was able to watch a couple of his college games. I put out a video last week on Karsen Dorwart, so I know he's with the team now, but if you want to hear my analysis on Karsen Dorwart, go ahead and watch that video after the show tonight. But yeah, he's got some wheels. He's aggressive. He looks like a smart player. And, if you can put all 3 of those things together, you might have a good little bottom 6 guy on your bottom 6 player on your hands there. Almost like a Scott Lawton type. Yeah, I don't want to say in his prime, like a poor man Scott Lawton. Let's not forget Scott Lawton was a first-round pick. But we'll see. At the very least, maybe this is a guy that can help out with the Phantoms, because I think this will be a topic on another show we do. But I think the AHL, excuse me, the AHL roster should be just as important as the NHL roster. If you think back in the Richards and Carter era, the Phantoms won the Calder Cup, and a lot of those guys came up the next year and had similar success,
That was a crazy year. I mean, obviously the lockout helped, but that was a stacked team, man.
Mm-hmm.
Netamacky, Richards, Carter, Upshaw, probably forgetting a few names there, man. That was fun. But yeah, you do want a team in the AHL to be relatively successful and good and want, learn how to win. You don't want just young guys have no idea what they're doing, bottom of the league. Nobody's going to develop under that. So you do want it to be good. And it seems like they're loading up. Luxell loading back as well as some other players getting ready for playoff push. So it should be really interesting. And Dorwart's interesting in the sense that, yeah, he could wind up down there, could be a depth piece, could stay up here. We don't know who's going to get moved and traded, and you just want to have the depth to do what you want to do. Maybe he proves he's more of an NHL guy, and now you can look into bigger deals and trades because you have too many centers or whatnot, or just it gives you more options. So it's always good to have enough depth to play with those options. So we'll see.
Yeah, for sure. So good little signing. Hopefully he succeeds, and he'll be somewhere with the organization next season. I want to touch on this real quick because we didn't talk too much about this, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts, Jack. Obviously, the Flyers haven't given out awards yet this season. They'll do that in the coming home games here, I assume. I was curious who might be the Flyers' most improved player or players this season. And I put out a quick video earlier in the week where I named 3 players. But before I get to that, I'm curious to hear who you think, Jack, could be the Flyers' most improved players from this season.
Well, I really liked your list. I'm going to rank them for you if you don't mind.
Sure.
All right. So at number 2, I'm going to go with Bobby Brink. I think a lot of people were out on him last year. And this year, not only is he doing everything, he's improved as an overall hockey player. And he's very, very useful. And he's been on other lines and has been the driver of some of those bottom 6 lines. He's a very useful player, more than just a depth piece. And I'm not saying he'll develop into a superstar or anything, but something I very much liked what I've seen from Bobby Brink this year. And I noticed I started with number 2. At number 3 is Drysdale. Thank you, Linden49. I think it took a little bit to get him going. This is a guy that I was willing to give this season to. It's just whatever happens. I'm going to start to judge you next season, 25-26. And he's already showing dividends with his game, what he can offer on the power play, what he can do. And they said when they brought him in, they're going to have to break his game all the way down and start over. And it seems that he's picking up what they're putting down. And that's a huge sign. That is a great sign for what this team needs. So I'm not quite there yet, but I'm very, very happy with Drysdale nonetheless. And at number 3, I'll put Risto, which you had there. I'm sorry, number 4. Mostly because he was good last year for me. That was the surprising year. He was hurt last year, hurt again this year. So I'll never be upset with his play. If he had to play from start to finish, he may be in the running as the game comes back. Second period is about 20 seconds in. He may be he could have been up for the what's the defensive trophy? Is it Barry Ashby? I think so. Whichever I think he's going to go to Sanheim this year, but I think Risto, had he played the full season, could have definitely pushed for that. So, but for us improved, he was good last year or better, much better. So that's the only reason why I dinged him a little bit. Mm-hmm. Number 1 for me, Jim, I'm going with Noah Cates. Mm-hmm. Noah Cates, if you remember last year, everybody was pretty much out on him. He did manage to come back and be a part of a pretty good 4th line, but people don't put a whole lot of stock in that. And then this year he was actually benched for Jet Luchenko. Like he was the odd man out when they made their final rosters, and he's battled all the way back to a point streak and some career highs and been the center of a line that has pretty much carried this team through a lot of the middle of the season. And he is definitely a guy that I'm going to look forward to as these years go on, as a 3-4 seed, depending on how things work out, and a very valuable player. Does a little bit of everything, heart and soul guy. And I really, really am a big fan of Cates. So I'm going to give it, my answer to the question is Noah Cates. That's who I think wins it this year.
Sure. He was a very popular pick on Facebook. That's for sure. 15 goals, 17 assists, 32 points in 73 games this year for Noah Cates. Certainly, I mean, where would you project Cates? For me, in a perfect world, he's still my third line center. What do you think?
Absolutely. And I'm not saying he can't be a 2, but to me, he strikes me as a guy, if you have an injury, he can pop up in the 2 slot and just fill in pretty admirably and do some things. Ultimately, I think his overall skill set isn't going to be too much what you would like. But other than that, bottom 6 guy, he's literally perfect. God forbid you're good enough where he can be your 4C, and then you can really, have a force to be reckoned with there. But yeah, he's a guy that I think this team believes is going to be a big part of the future, even if it's in the bottom 6. But he's going to be one of those. He's a fan favorite already. I think he's going to stay a fan favorite, and he's going to be a reliable guy, reliable penalty killer, reliable. Do whatever you need.
It's going to be interesting because he's up to get paid this summer. I mean, what do you think a contract looks like for Noah Cates this offseason?
I mean, that depends. I don't know if they want to go long term. I don't know if Cates wants to go long term. This is kind of something of a breakout for the type of player he is. I would prefer they go long term and just don't go crazy with the number. But I think ultimately he'll probably sign for what's he making this year? That's what throws me off. I think I can see 2 or 3 years in the mid to high 3 range, 3.5, 3.75. I don't know if he touches 4. If he gets more years, he might. But ultimately, I think they'll 2, 3, 4 years for Cates. The longer the years, the more money it'll be. I think they'll settle there. I'd be shocked if they sign him to an 8-year, $4.2 million deal or something like that. Teams do that. That has happened. Nashville did that with, of course, his name's going to escape me, but some guy who's been there for quite some time. That's a lot of trust, so it's hard for me to go that far. I like 4 years, as Vegas said here. I wouldn't be surprised with 2. I think 3 is a pretty good medium, and then just kind of roll the dice and see if you can keep it going.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. You're looking at Noah Cates, Ryan Poehling. That's pretty good for your bottom 6 centers there. If you can just somehow fill the top 2. And we'll talk about how coming up in just a few minutes. But yeah, so I think that's a pretty solid list there. Drysdale, Risto, Brink, Cates. For me, if I had to pick one, it would be Bobby Brink. And if you remember at the end of last year, I was out on Bobby Brink. You remember the game against the Canadians where it just looked like he was out of gas, and the guy was struggling to finish the season. His hockey sense was kind of going out the window there. The offense was always there, but this season I've been impressed. Whatever he did in the offseason worked. He's come in this year in great shape. He's improved in his skating. His offensive instincts are very good. Defensively, he's improved as well, and he's even solidified himself on an actual line, as you mentioned, with Noah Cates and Tyson Forster. So maybe not a coincidence that those two, Noah Cates and Bobby Brink, were playing together. And maybe they kind of fed off each other a little bit. But I'm going Brink just because I was so out on him last year. I kind of had the same thought on Brink as I had for Farabee. If you guys remember, I wanted to trade. Excuse me. I was out on them both. And I thought, the Flyers needed to get rid of Farabee sometime during the summer because he just looks like he's toast. And I felt the same way for Bobby Brink. Excuse me.
You're absolutely right. I think you're definitely not alone there. I think in some mock trades people were throwing around the offseason, remember the old Hag in a third? I think you could replace Hag with Brink. That people were very much, and maybe not a third, but whatever deal they had, he was a throw-in piece that maybe get it done. And I think he's definitely increased his value a lot this year. He does nothing but surprise, man. Last year, nobody had him making the team. Maybe a call up at some point during the year. He makes the team out of camp. To me, the reason I was willing to give him a little leeway, he's a rookie, his first year. The whole team kind of fell off, so I wasn't out on him. Would I have traded him in a bigger deal? Potentially, but that would depend on so many different factors. So as far as the player and developing, I can't sit here and tell you that I don't dislike certain people. Oh, this player's out, trade him. No, it's peaks and valleys. So if there's a valley, I'm going to have to roll with it a little bit. I think that was Brink towards the end of last year. I did not know how he was going to respond. Definitely responded very, very well this year. It's pretty close between Cates and Brink, and it's funny because they're on the same line. So that I would be happy with either one.
Yep. Okay. Let's move on a little bit to maybe a little bit of the negative end of the spectrum here.
Speaking of negative, they're going to shut us down, Jim.
You know what we can do then? We'll put on
Unbelievable. We're the little guy. You're going to shut down the little guy? Who does that?
We'll do NHL.com.
Unbelievable. Can you believe this? Just pathetic. Absolutely pathetic.
Good looking out there. Okay.
Thanks, Teddy.
We'll do this here in the background. All right.
There you go. You guys are all watching it on your own TV anyway.
Yeah.
God forbid we try to innovate. Jesus.
There's your play-by-play. Okay. So we're going to go to the we're going to take a look at the Philadelphia Phantoms prospect, Nikita Grabenkin, who the Flyers got in return for Scott Law. And then, I have a little bit of a beef here with this player. Not with this player, but, it always kind of irks me when the Flyers acquire somebody or, there's a prospect out there that, all the prospect guys juice up or pump up, and Grabenkin, when the Flyers got him, there were some guys out there, talking him up so much that you thought he was going to be a 40, 50, 60-point player in the NHL, right? And, I'm seeing this, and I'm not saying anything because I haven't watched the player, so I don't know one way or the other. But I see 5th-round pick, and I'm like, 32 teams passed on this guy 4 or 5 times, and you're telling me that the Flyers got a 60-point player, 50-point player, So I'm like, I got to see this guy for myself. So I'm watching this guy the other night against Springfield, and Jack, I didn't know how I was going to make it through the game watching this guy play. That he was so boring to watch, and it was just like really lazy stuff, and I'm not sure if that's like, the Russian factor or whatever. Maybe he hates that he's playing in Lehigh, but just flying by the people with the puck, just really just unimpressed with Grabenkin the other night. And it's unfortunate because you heard that clip when they traded for him. We played the clip, the back check, forecheck, paycheck. And I'm watching this game and there's no back check. Oftentimes he was the 5th guy back in the zone defensively and absolutely no forecheck whatsoever. He was oftentimes the 2nd or even 3rd guy in. So I'm like, the only way this guy is going to score 50 points is if someone else is doing all the work or if he's camping out in front. And he's not the biggest guy. He's got some size, but this guy ain't scoring 50 points in the NHL. I got news for everyone. If that's who he is, the game that I watched, if that's who he is, he might not even be an NHL player. So I'm a little frustrated because during these big trades, obviously everyone wants the clicks and the likes and the attention and all that, right? And I'm not naming names, but you guys know who they are on Twitter. Like I get a little bit frustrated because I try to be honest, right? We try to be honest in our assessments. I'm going to tell you guys what I see. I'm not going to butter yous up, for likes and clicks and say, wow, Nikita Grabenkin, power play goal. Everybody, the Flyers got a big power play guy coming up. No. He's going to sit there, and if the puck comes to him on a platter, yeah, he's going to score. But watching him against Springfield the other night, I was massively disappointed. I don't see what everyone who was pumping him up a month ago was seeing at all, and I'm a little disappointed in the dishonesty. I think I get the hype, and everyone gets caught up in it, but the Leafs were okay to give him up. They say, yeah, we'll give up Grabenkin, sure.
That's the first sign, right?
Yeah.
Maybe it's just an off night. I'm gonna try to watch the playoffs because the Flyers will obviously be out. So whenever I hope it hasn't started already. I think that the Phantoms, the AHL starts a little bit sooner than the NHL, so I'll have to keep an eye on that. But I do have a way to watch, so I'm gonna try. There's like 3 types of people when it comes to this stuff. There's like the first people who come out who actually know what they're talking about. And they'll say, like, if everything breaks right for said player, they could be a 50, 60-point player with obviously understanding, thank you, Vegas, that's probably not going to happen. But, hey, here's the ceiling. And then there's the next person who's like, the wannabe, beat writer or prospect guy, and they take that and run with it. And then there's the third, which is they're just excited. They're just excited. He's funny. Flyers made a trade. They acquired a prospect. They like what he could be. They read what these other people are saying, and things just get wild. I believe the Flyers are about to score. Hold on. We got a tie game. But this is a tanking update thing. But it was Forster, so I like seeing that. It was a nice shot by Forster. So 1-1. So yeah, I understand your frustration for sure. I just take everything with a grain of salt nowadays. And even his bad game where he's coasting, which is a shame because it's, you're in the AHL, kid. But we'll see. We'll see how he does in the playoffs. Hopefully they show up, they get things figured out, and we'll hopefully have more to report. Because Briere did say, you said he was a 5th-round pick. Briere said they were offered a 1st and a 3rd, and they felt this player was more valuable than the 3rd. So we'll see.
Yeah,
I hope it's not just flat out because he's Russian and so is Michkov. But we'll see. I understand the frustration. Twitter is not the best place to. It's a shame because you can get some good information if you dig for it, but mostly you're going to get some wild crap.
Yeah, and I just felt it comes off disingenuous, and I felt lied to. Well, because I was excited to watch this player. I'm like, all right, let's see what he's all about here. Let's see if the Flyers actually got something. And again, it was one game.
I learned a long time ago, and seriously, this goes back to like Alb Kubel, like that long ago. I'm following blogs because this was the first time I thought that with Hextall, they were going to do something of a rebuild maybe. So I'm following every draft pick I can, and he's scoring goals left and right in juniors. And you see what he ultimately became. And it's like, you just got to take things of a grain of salt because who the hell knows? The NHL is an animal. And the most talented guys they have to refine their game, and they're a completely different type of player. They don't make it. Who knows? And it's just one of those things where I've learned over time, I don't get excited. I like the idea, but I'm not going to let the train run off the tracks. And a lot of what you said and your frustration is why.
Yeah. Yeah, like let us watch the player before we I don't know. Just makes you think, like, have you watched any of the guy before saying that just because he scored, 40 points in the KHL that he's going to score 50 in the NHL?
Yeah,
Does
you
that even
see all
make
that.
sense?
The best player not in the NHL. Brady Chen was the best prospect in hockey. How'd that turn out for us?
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Yep. Ant checking in. The boys. What's up, Ant? Dave as well. That's the problem with all sports, Dave says. People go up and down after 10 minutes. They're people, not mood swings.
It's true. I'm seeing all sports.
And also chimes in, people just want their narrative agenda to be right so they can rub it in everyone's faces. Yeah.
It's true, though, because if they're wrong, nobody remembers. But if they're right, they called it.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's sure it's nice to be right, but let's do our homework and let's be honest. That's all. Okay, let's move on a little bit here. Do we have fun topics? We have coaching talk. You have here Bradshaw post-practice presser, Jack. Yeah, do you want to lead with that?
So I did listen to his practice. I believe it was on Monday. His presser with the media. The big takeaway from me, because they did ask him about his future with the team, and I cannot quote him verbatim, but essentially it was like he wants to try to be a head coach. So to me, I don't know where the Flyers land on that, where Danny and company land on that. We'll definitely get an interview. The odds of him returning as an assistant in any way, shape, or form, which is my dream per se, especially just what he's done with the defense. I would love to find a way to keep him around. I don't think Mike Sullivan's going to get fired. Basically what I'm hearing out of Pittsburgh and what they want to do, I think they're going to keep him. So it's like, what scenario can you be in where they hire a coach that maybe we like and they keep Shaw? I don't see that. And he was at the point with what he was saying, like, I would love to get he said, I would love to get the full season with this team in the off season, in the summer, and then play the whole season. So that screams, I want to be a head coach. It's what he said. I mean, it's not even hidden, and that's already kind of like, oh boy. So if he doesn't get it, he's probably gone. And then on top of that, it was like right at the end, he kind of saved it. He's like, well, they go with somebody else. And then thank you for my time here. I was like, oh geez. So he's just out. And he kind of saved it with like, I doubt they would, in so many words, I probably wouldn't be the assistant the new guy brought in essentially. So it wasn't anything unheard of. I get it. If where he's at and what he's done and how different he is. And I can't argue with what he says. He's a good talker. He's so night and day from coach. I have heard though, if you piss him off, like you really are doing what he wants you to do, he can get a little pissy, which is good because I don't want any pushovers with this team. So Jim, I'll throw it to you and I'll say, what would you think? And I can't even remember how serious we considered Shaw. I think we shot it down and so did the chat. But like, what if they really do? Or like, you know what? These other guys aren't really available. We don't see anything we really like, or we can't come to a deal with somebody. And Talkett's situation is kind of weird, actually. We can bring that up in a second. Would you be okay with them giving Shaw a shot for like 2 years or a year? Or are you like, no, whoever they hire, they got to be the guy they go with, and it's got to be as close to a sure thing as you can get?
So here's something crazy. I would let him. I think he's got one more year left. I'm not sure if that's correct or not, or at least he's under contract. I know he's under contract to be the assistant coach. Not sure how it would work, but I think we had this conversation, a similar conversation before. If they can't get their guy, like let's say their guy's Carl and he's not interested leaving Denver, or let's say their guy's Tocchet and something gets tied up in Vancouver. If their guy is not available, I'm working something out with Shaw for a year. I'll let play out your contract. Let's see how it goes. You can sort of audition for here or somewhere else. And the players, if the players like them, they might play for him. Like, hey, let's get Shawsy a job, kind of thing. You know what I mean? So I would stick around with him. I wouldn't commit to anything past 2 years. From what is out there, he's a teacher, he's a good communicator, things like that. And what I'm looking for in a coach right now with a younger team is exactly that: a good teacher, a good communicator, a guy that the players are going to enjoy. So if he's that guy and you already have him, I would stick with him for a year or two. And that's what I would do. What do you think about that?
It's hard to argue. I mean, it's just weird. And I do want somebody else, and I want Shaw to stay in the position he was at. And it just feels like you're kicking the can down the road a little bit. A lot of things would have to go bad in their coaching search for me to consider that, because there's so many names potentially available. I'd rather than roll the dice on somebody like that. And it just is what it is. You're not going to be able to have Shaw forever. So it is what it is. But one, like with Tocchet, he's got and I've only ever heard of these options in baseball. He has a team option on the last year of his deal, meaning the team is essentially going to be able to be like, yeah, you're still our coach, sorry. And he's either got to quit and, not get paid, or coach the Canucks. And things could be really bad there too. And I don't know if Vancouver would do that. I know they're irritated. And I believe Elliot Friedman brought this up about the fact that the Flyers are sniffing around. They don't like that. He's our coach, so Tocchet may be out. All these college guys may want to stay put. The Hershey Bears coach, I think, was it McClellan? Was that his name? I got to pull up our notes real quick. I'm sorry. Nelson, excuse me. Todd Nelson. Yeah, he's not ready. For God's sakes, Joel Quenneville got brought up. I mean, do you really see that being an option with everything went down with that? So if things fall through and Jonesy's former teammate and Furschweiler isn't an option, and Carl stays in Denver, and are you going to just go hire a random assistant just because you have a coaching vacancy, or would you then consider rolling the dice on a very short-term, short lease deal with Shaw, kick the can down the road, maybe more guys become available, more options open up? That's the only way I think they keep Shaw. I can't see him blowing away an interview. He's had interviews with other teams. I don't even think he was in their, the final list, the final three, or however they do things. So it was just interesting. He made it, they may have already known, but he made it pretty well known to the media. He's like, yeah, I want to be a head coach. I would definitely try this. And that's what I took away from that. I'm like, this could complicate things, but we'll see what they do.
Yeah, that's for sure. You have a couple guys in the notes here: Mark Hunter from London Knights, Pat Furschweiler from the Western Michigan Broncos. And I think he's got a Keith Jones connection there. I know Keith Jones went to Western Michigan, but they're connected, those two, somehow.
They played together.
Okay, so that's a name to look out for, maybe a dark horse type of thing. Yeah. So some interesting names floating around, I'm sure, as we get closer to it. We'll hear more, I guess, between now and the draft. You would assume that they would want their guy in place by June.
Oh, they better. They freaking better have their coach at least 2-3 weeks before the draft.
Yeah. Okay. So let's get to, unless there was anything else, Jack, we have our big topic on deck here. Did we miss anything? A little housekeeping before we get to the creme de la creme?
No, I think we'll save the tanking update for the end of the show. I think that's it.
Okay. All right. So let's do it then. We want to know your guys' most unbelievable trade scenarios for the offseason. We have a couple of guys we want. I don't know if we're going to have specifics, who goes for what, but I used an example earlier. Jack and I, we're tossing names back and forth before the show, and Brady Tkachuk came up on both of our lists. So we want Brady Tkachuk. We're going to talk about why. We don't care what the Senators need. We don't care what the Senators want. We're just going to have some fun with this. But we want to know from you guys as well. Who's your guy? We saw JJ Peterka's name flying around. Tage Thompson popped up a couple times in there. So we want to know who you guys want so we can discuss. So Jack, let's kick this off, man. Who do you want to get to first?
Let's start with like the least crazy and work our way up.
Okay.
So with that, we're going to bring up our old pal, Trevor Zegras. Trevor Zegras is an interesting situation. He is of the center position. I think the value should have dropped pretty significantly. Yes, Anaheim, that may not be the case. He does have 2 60-point seasons under his belt. He's been very injury-plagued this season, I believe. He has, in 52 games played, he has 11 goals, 19 assists, 30 points. He's a -7. He's only 24 years old. Just turned, actually. So you need a center. If he could be had cheaply, I would kick the tires, because what do you really use? Depending on the price, what are you losing there? Probably not a whole lot. So I know we said crazy and wild. Well, that's because Anaheim is still holding a pretty high price, and it would be interesting. I would obviously hope they do other things, whether it be this season or next season. But to just bring in a new, NHL center who has the ability to do some highlight reel stuff and play him with Michkov and maybe even connect me, like, that is interesting to me. Some guys do just need a change of scenery, and I know that like the stock on Zegras is very down right now. But you'd probably be saying the same thing about Drysdale if he were still in Anaheim, and look how that has turned out so far. So look, if he can be had for the right price, which is definitely a cheaper price, we can take the cap. That's no problem at all. And he's a center. So, I mean, it's very interesting. What it would cost, would I be willing to offer? Maybe multiple seconds. And we have 4 of them, for God's sakes, and maybe another prospect. But they're going to want like a first and an A prospect, and that's probably why he won't get moved. Ultimately, we'll see. But it would be interesting.
Yes, I do want to point out. So it's interesting because I think I'm in on Zegras too. Like, he's a guy that I think the Flyers should really be looking at. He's come on a little bit of late with 13 points in his last 15 games. So, maybe getting hot at the wrong time. Or maybe it's kind of like, hey, this guy can still score. He could still put up points. He's had it down last year and a half. But he's a guy I think the Flyers should still be sniffing around on. I think he's going to get moved in the offseason, I think. And if he could play center or even left wing, because the Flyers still need those, I think you need to take a serious look at Zegras. He kind of reminds me of like the Dylan Cousins situation, who started out kind of hot with Ottawa. I think he's got 10 points in 17 games now with them. But the Flyers have wings, right? So anybody who plays center, if they have offensive talent and offensive gifts, they'll succeed here offensively. You're playing with Michkov, you're playing with Tippett, Konechny. These guys can fly around. They can score. They can put the puck in the net. So they need a distributor, somebody that's creative. And Trevor Zegras should be, if he's not at the top, he should be around or near the top of the Flyers list. So that's a good one.
Yeah, and look, if they were to give up Colorado's first for Zegras, I would like to know who was on the board at the time. But from my understanding of this draft, that wouldn't exactly be the worst thing in the world. I would consider it a slight overpayment, but if we're a little bit upset with the deal and Anaheim fans are a little bit upset with the deal, it's probably a good deal for both sides. So, I mean, that's a lot to swallow based on how he's been. But if you look at his overall stats, I mean, take it for what it's worth. He's played 263 NHL games. He has 66 goals, 118 points for 118 assists for 184 points. He's a minus 47, but I kind of throw that out because Anaheim's terrible. Yep, Torts isn't here. Maybe we can have some more fun. Could bite you, but at that point, what did you really lose? Yeah. So, he's not the guy. They make that deal that we're like, okay, we're all in. No, not even close. That's not that. That is just seeing what you have. Part of getting good players in here, particularly at the center position, there were like 4 ways we wanted to do that: free agent, draft, trade, or reclamation project. He looks like he's coming pretty close to a reclamation project. Yeah, all the reclamation projects you get aren't going to be free. You're going to probably have to, to get the first one, try to trade for one. So it's definitely an avenue I hope they consider and explore if the price is right.
All right. So let's move on a little bit here. And while maybe this player is not the sexiest name out there, with your Zegrises and your Kachucks, who we're going to get to, what do you think about Gabriel Vilardi? Now, this is not a player that we've seen a lot of on the East Coast. He was with the Kings. He started out with the Kings for a few years. Was injury stricken for, I think most of his tenure there until his last season, where he put up 41 points in 63 games back in 2022. He was then traded to Winnipeg for Pierre-Luc Dubois, or included in the deal for Pierre-Luc Dubois. And he's found a home in Winnipeg. Last year, he put up 36 points in 47 games before being overcome by injury once again. Which, is a caveat to this. We will discuss, but Vilardi is a 6'3", 216-pound, 25-year-old center. This season, he has 61 points in 71 games with 27 goals. This is the kind of center I think the Flyers should be looking at. You got your size, you have offensive ability, you can distribute, he can score, you can score on the power play. I don't think he's too bad defensively. I'm not sure. I think he's an RFA, but this is a guy I don't think he's going to want to play. So there's a theme for my picks. A lot of the guys I'm going to toss out there are playing for Canadian markets. And, Winnipeg, we know, has trouble hanging on to guys. So this is a guy, if I'm Danny Briere, I'm kicking the tires on. What does Winnipeg need? Can we bring in, can we give you what you need for Vilardi and kind of flip-flop something here? What are your thoughts on Vilardi, Jack?
Well, real quick, Hathaway just gave the Flyers the lead. So
hey, there you go.
When we talk about the tank later, it's going to come up. Vilardi is interesting because he just came on later in his career. He's already been with 2 different teams. I believe he'll turn 26 in August. Which is fine. That fits the timeline better. But, he's already got 61 points this year. You can see when he plays a full season, because the most games before this season he's played was 63 back in 22-23 with the Kings, where he had 41 points. He's got 71 games this year, 61 points. And he's a positive player, at least the latter half of his career. I don't know what the price would be, but I would definitely kick the tires. If that's something Winnipeg wants to do. He is just double check here to make sure is he a pure center or is he play center? Looks like he's a pure center. Yeah. He's a pure center. So yeah, absolutely. Now the only thing with him, he doesn't exactly strike me as. I think he'd be a better option than Zegras, but I think he's going to cost you more too. So you're kind of rolling the dice. But yeah, that's what we need to do. We need to roll the dice. So I'd be all for it. I don't know how much if he were to continue to grow from where he's at, could be a home run. Could be an absolute home run hit. I just don't know. So ultimately, we'll see. But he's definitely somebody the Flyers should be in on.
Yeah, no doubt. Okay, who's next on our list?
Here's an interesting one. And now we're going to start to get into the land of probably never going to happen. And that'll be Simon Nemec from the New Jersey Devils, the 2nd overall pick of the 2022 draft. As you know, there's been some issues there. His first year in the NHL was 23-24. He played 60 games, 3 goals, 16 assists for 19 points, -7. This year, he's only played 24 games, 1 goal, 2 assists, 3 points. And that apparently upsets him. He was very upset about playing in the AHL. He made it pretty well known. Do the Devils make a deal with the Flyers? Probably not, but he is a 6'1" right-handed defenseman, 21 years old. I mean, I understand that the need is at center, but you can never have enough defensemen, particularly stay-at-home defensemen. And I think he does a little bit of it all, two-way defenseman, really. I don't see this happening, but if it did, I'd be all for it. He's the kind of guy that you want for your defensive core. He's a little bit of what you don't have, because you have three different guys between York, Andre, and Drysdale, who are going to, quarterback the power play, have offensive, moves and whatnot. York's a little bit of a anomaly at this time based on why he was drafted. And Panarin just tied it. It's 2-2. The chat said that, I didn't even realize. So it's back to 2-2. Back to 2-2, fellas.
Tank's back.
Yeah, Tank is back in action. Come on, Rangers. We got to get a top pick here. We have to at least be top 5. Panarin doing what he can. So do I in this? Yeah, it's true. For who went in that draft, very interesting. And the way things have gone is odd. So if he were truly available to everybody, and I know we even have to pay a division tax or whatever, and I know it's never going to happen, but I was still, sometimes they trade with each other. Sometimes not typically like this, but they should be in on it if that's the case, just because it's depth and it's a pretty high caliber second overall. I mean, and what I read about his draft profile coming out, and does a little bit of everything, and hard to turn that down, hard to turn that down for sure. And I don't know what it takes to get him with his situation, but he's a guy they should be in on if possible.
All right, well, let's keep it defensive here. And a guy that I'm going to toss out there who is kind of getting like the Shane Gostisbehere treatment for Edmonton is Evan Bouchard, right? Like a lot of Flyers fans loved Gostisbehere because he was fun. He was a fun player. He put up points. But a lot of people didn't like him because he couldn't play defense. And Evan Bouchard is kind of getting that same treatment for some reason in Edmonton. This guy, I think he was a point per game player or just about in the playoffs a few years back. Let me look that up real quick. But has a massive bomb shot, something that the Flyers are missing right now. All this guy does when the Oilers get to the playoffs, all he does is score points. 32 points in 25 games last year, 17 in 12 games the year before, 63 points in 77 games this year. Just a massive bomb of a shot. 6'3", 25 years old. Exactly what's missing on the Flyers today. You can sacrifice. Hey, look, I don't know what goes back the other way, but if you have Cam York, who everybody loves, right, and is one of the Flyers' best defensemen, pair him up with Evan Bouchard. Let's see how good at defense Cam York is. Can he support another player? Right. And people will point out that he's supporting Travis Sanheim, which I think is just not true. But Evan Bouchard is a guy that I would be in on. I think he's an RFA after this season. I have to double check that. But he's definitely due for a contract. This guy puts up points. He puts up goals. You want to solve your power play? Get a bomb shot from the point. That's another threatening position, right? It's going to leave other guys open on the flanks. When teams got to rush out to the point to block shots, all of a sudden, you're on the penalty kill. You're a little bit afraid to block a shot from the point. Right now, the Flyers don't have anybody that can shoot from the point where guys are afraid. They're happy to clog up the lanes, happy to clog up the shooting lanes because they know that a muffin's coming their way. Cam York. You know what I mean? This is what I keep bringing up when we talk about guys like Cam York on the power play. Like, guys, they don't mind trying to block his shot because it's not going to hurt that bad. You put Evan Bouchard out there, and it's like, oh, shit. Like, I'm not blocking this guy's shot. Like, hopefully the goalie stops it. So Evan Bouchard would be a guy that I'd be looking at.
Evan Bouchard's very interesting. I ultimately don't think they'll go that route because of their needs and what they would need to give up, but you never know.
Yeah.
It's funny because in our fantasy league, I remember being asked, like, somebody took Quinn Hughes, and a couple picks later, somebody took Bouchard, and they were like, "So what do you think about these players, Jack?" And I was like, "Well, I think Quinn Hughes is going to be the better overall defenseman, but Bouchard may have more points." But Quinn Hughes is otherworldly, so that is different. 429 games played, 407 points, 348 assists. Holy cow. However, it took Bouchard a little bit longer to get to the NHL. In 342 games, he's got 234 points. So, I mean, and he's only trailing Quinn Hughes in goals by 5. So, take that for what it is. Obviously, Quinn Hughes is hands down the better defenseman overall. That being said, like, do they give up that kind of draft capital asset management for a position that they think they already have and or could have, like Drysdale for starters? And he is a restricted free agent, but I believe a big contract's coming up pretty soon. I wouldn't complain, but I'd be very curious what's going the other way and some of our players' new roles. So while the idea of the player is very exciting, I don't see it happen.
Yeah, that's why it's unbelievable trades.
That's true.
Okay,
unbelievable trades.
All right, who do you got?
Well, here's one everybody was interested in. This has been discussed before. The chat's on fire. They've named so many of these players already. Here's Quinton Byfield. He is listed as a right wing, but I know he has played center. Left-handed center. He'll turn 23 this August. 256 games played, 136 points, 48 goals, 80 assists, plus 41 player. Look, he's a center. We need a center, and I believe he was number 2 pick of the 2020 draft. I mean, high draft caliber. He looks otherworldly. He does. It's consistency with him. He's absolutely a guy I hope that they're kicking the tires with. If LA is even truly like dangling him, because they have some weird issues there between their offense and defense and what they're trying to do out there. So, I mean, this guy, it could flop. There's definitely some risk here. But if you're talking about trading for a young player and maybe the offer sheet route isn't working, boom or bust, Byfield could be that guy. I'm in on it. I don't know what it costs. I would like to see the final price, but it is and I think they have kicked the tires, but it's definitely something they should be monitoring and in on.
Yeah, I would hope so. He's a guy, if they somehow traded for Quinton Byfield, that would be pretty insane. I think he's splitting time between center and wing this year with the Kings, but that could just be because they're so deep at the center position. If the Flyers, let's say they made a deal for him, he's a center. You play him at center.
Absolutely.
And he's instantly in your top 6. So yeah, big rangy guy, can score. He's good defensively, down year on the power play this year, but he's proven in the past that he can play on the power play. Big body, get him out in front of the goalie, things like that. So Byfield would be, if we're sneaking in potentially somewhat, I don't want to say reasonable, but almost believable moves, that would be one, I think, Quinton Byfield. Along with a
it would be earth-shattering in a sense, but it would be in the realm of reality.
Yeah,
like other teams make big moves. We used to make big moves. This, if we were to make it, it's allowed. It's okay. There's a realm where it exists.
Yep. Okay, so now that you brought us back to reality, I'm going to take us back out of reality, and we teased Brady Tkachuk a couple times tonight. And look, I know it sounds crazy, but let me just tell you why he would make sense. And I'm sure he makes sense for a lot of teams, especially on the East Coast. So he's got family out this way. I think his girlfriend's family is from New Jersey. There were rumors already last summer that he wasn't happy in Ottawa and eventually wanted to move and potentially East Coast bound, and I guess teams like the Rangers, Devils, and, the Flyers never actually came up, but hey, they're not that far off. And look, I know the Rangers are doing their thing. Chris Drury's going out and getting guys and whatnot. They're a little bit more desperate, I think. Brady Tkachuk would be an absolute rock star with the Philadelphia Flyers. He would be a god here. They would pay him whatever he wanted. He could do whatever he wants. It would be mayhem, So I think of all the players on our list, even though he may not make the most sense, and I think somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but he's taking faceoffs with Ottawa. I know he's not a center, but I don't care what position he plays. This guy would just, you want to talk about culture,
I was just gonna say, yeah, that's a
right?
culture move here. Yeah.
He would just bring so much. He would sell out that stadium. You want to talk about maximum effort? The guy hits, shoots, blocks shots, fights, you name it. He's the ultimate flyer. If there's a way, if there's even a sniff of a rumor that he wants out of Ottawa and wants to come east, you need to be in on Brady Tkachuk in somehow, some way.
Yeah, if there was a way to maneuver the roster like that significantly where it would make, I mean, it's always going to make sense, but they can still pull it off like all day. I mean, yes, it's a culture thing. How a Tkachuk does not don a Flyers jersey, and I'm going back to Keith. Why did maybe he never wanted to come here? I don't know, but the style of play, I don't know why they were never really in on Keith Tkachuk. Like they should have started there. I don't know what Bobby Clark was thinking, except if he just had no interest. Because that is a prototypical Flyer, and it still is.
Yep.
And that is why, if there's any irrational thought to our team makeup and build and what we need and where we're going to spend our assets, Kachuk's one I can be blind to and just be like, whatever, just get him. Don't care. Just get him. I prefer Matthew, but he's older, so like Brady makes sense. Just make it happen.
Yeah.
And there's a list of players that should have played for the Flyers in the 90s, and Chuck's like third on that list for me. And it's like some of the other ones are like ridiculously good. So it's like it just makes too much sense with the Flyers emblem. It really does. And they may feel differently, but I see how they play, and it don't feel differently to me.
Yeah, 100%. And so Guido brings up a point here, and we have a player on our list that we'll touch on, and we'll do one more after this one. But Guido says, I know he's not a center, but a player I'm looking for an offer sheet is Matthew Nyes of the Leafs. The Leafs are a very big contract in their lineup, maybe a good team for that. They have very big contracts in their lineup. That's an interesting one. So I guess it would depend on what they do with Mitch Marner, who is in
Tavares as well.
Tavares as well, who's a free agent. So two big free agents there, Jack. So I'm going to pose a couple questions for you here. And remember, the title of the episode is Unbelievable Trade Scenarios for the Flyers. Kind of the opposite here of Brady Tkachuk. If Mitch Marner is a realistic possibility, do you go for him?
Man, you're committing a lot of your cap to a it's
true.
Non-center. It ends. You're talking about wanting to go to the playoffs and winning the playoffs. Mitch Marner in the playoffs is anything but inspiring.
Yeah.
And and I'm not doubting the skill. I'm not. He's got in 652 games, he has 733 points. Now he's a plus 120 career.
Yeah.
But he also plays with some freaking good talent, man. He's going to finish this season, could finish with 100 points. He's at 94 right now with 6 games to go. That being said, he is a winger, and we need centers. And he's going to cost you. Is that the guy you really blow your load for? Your financial load? Sorry. Is that the guy that you cleared up all this cap space for, and you're going to use it all? I don't. That doesn't make sense to me unless you move mountains with the rest of your roster. That you can bring something like that in. I really don't see. It's way too much movement, way too much trading and whatnot. I don't see how that is truly feasible.
Yeah. And then, so the second part is, I know we're all looking for the permanent solution at the center position for the Flyers, but a guy like John Tavares becomes available. He's 34 years old. Would you be opposed to signing him for, I don't know, a 3-year deal? While you're drafting guys in the meantime. Luchenko's coming up. I don't think Luchenko is going to be with the Flyers next year. Just my opinion. Would you take a shot on a guy like Tavares who can still play and maybe give him, like I said, a 2-3-year deal? This is assuming the Flyers are a possibility for him. But would he be a guy would that be a scenario that you would explore, and would he be a guy you'd be interested in doing it for?
I mean, would I be interested? Yeah. If really you financially can make it work and not ding yourself in the 2026 offseason, because having him around your young team, especially if you sign Tavares, say 3 years, Luchenko's not with the team, and you don't bring in anybody else, what's the point? Like, are you hoping that in 2 years and 3 years that he can kind of be around your team and whatnot? I mean, he offers more to the rest of the team, not just the centers, but it's an interesting scenario. I don't hate it. I don't think it's anything they do, but I definitely don't think Tavares does it. It's not, he has not won a cup yet. So I think he's going to go either stay with Toronto, because it sounds like he said, I will wait out the Marner scenario before I make a decision. Which means he wants to say he's got the bed sheets from when he was a kid. He's a Toronto guy.
Yeah,
you know, and
money, I guess.
And you know, it's something I can see them happening in NHL, and I understand it from our perspective. I don't quite get it from his perspective. Things would have to go so strangely that he's just sitting in free agency. He's got kind of like a Taylor Hall situation where, like, you know, Buffalo signs it for $8 million with the idea of trading him. And eventually they did for not nearly as much as they could. But like something like that, like he's just still out there like end of July or something like that. And like nobody financially can make it work. Trades aren't going through. And it's like, look, here's our scenario. Are you interested? You know, it'd have to be something strange like that. With the Philly side, Jake Arrieta, something like that. Like I can't, other than that, as far as like day 1 or 2, no, I don't see it happening. There are benefits for the Flyers. I don't see much benefit for Tavares.
No. Okay, and with that, let's get to our last name of the night. We'll save most names for future shows. It's going to be a long off season, long couple of months here as the Flyers are finishing up in the next week or two. So we'll have this conversation a few more times, Jack. But for tonight, your last name of this episode is?
And this is, we're going to get nuts. Tage Thompson. Vegas Woe said it earlier in the podcast. Kudos, you know, really killing me early here. I saw that. I was like, okay, there goes that surprise. 44 goals again this year, 71 points in 71 games. If you go back to 2022-23, in 78 games, he had 47 goals, 47 assists for 94 points. You know, a little bit of a down year last year, but proven he could definitely be a goal scorer. Imagine this guy next to Michkov. Yep. Holy cow. Now, does Buffalo do something like that? Probably not, but who knows? It's Buffalo. The owners care more about Penn State University than they do the team. So anything's possible. He'll turn 28 at the end of October next year. That fits our timeline. It truly does. I'll take on whatever cap he's got. I'll give them pretty much whatever they want. Yeah, that probably doesn't happen, but my God, if there is any kind of slight interest in them moving on from him, Flyers better be the first ones making the phone call, and it's going to cost a lot. I'm willing to deal.
Yeah, you're talking about fun. Like, he's as fun as they come. You mentioned 40-goal scorer. Be nice. The Flyers haven't had one of those in a little while, if I remember.
When's the last time they had a center who could do that? Who had a game-breaking winger who could do the things that Michkov does? Like, my goodness. And then you just throw Konechny on the left wing there. Oh, I mean, talk about changing your trajectory for the playoffs. I mean, my God.
Yeah. And that's, Tage Thompson's obviously, he's not a player looking for a change of scenery like this. He's a guy where you're giving up a lot and you put him right at the top of your lineup. But like for an example, the centers out there who maybe want to rejuvenate their careers, they got to be looking at what the Flyers have at wing. And they're like, you know what? Philly might be a place I want to be. I'll sign a 1-2 year deal there and see what I can do. And maybe the Flyers maybe they flip them or they keep them around, whoever this player is. But, I've brought up in the past, why would you want to play for the Flyers? Well, they got guys that can put the puck in the net now. And if you're a guy, like I've said a few times, looking to rejuvenate your career, Zegras comes to mind, or if you're a Tage Thompson, who you're putting up points with Buffalo, it's like, well, if I got the opportunity to play with Michkov, sign me up, So, yeah, Tage Thompson would be a massive fish. And I've heard his name come up a lot. I don't know if there are actually Buffalo rumors out there with Tage Thompson because that's such a weird franchise. But I'm not sure what their plan is up there. Don't really care.
Yeah.
But like, if they're going the younger route, you mentioned he's 28. I don't know. Maybe he is a guy that they kick around.
I know the situation was different, but this is a team that traded Jack Eichel. Anything's possible.
Exactly.
And if I'm Tage Thompson, everything's Buffalo has done. I don't know how he's like treated out there or how he likes it or whatever. Maybe he's like, I'm the guy who's going to get him back to the playoffs. Who knows? But knowing what I know about the franchise and where they've been and where they spend their money and how often they spend their money, if you really want to win, if you really want to like shine, I don't know if Buffalo's that place. They are still struggling to figure it out. It seems everybody they bring in there, like they've moved on from Cousins. They've moved on from Middlestat. They've moved on. Like they brought in Byram. He's on the trade block again. Like they have Owen Power was the first overall pick of the draft. Darlene was the first overall pick of the draft. They can't figure it out in net. Like it's just nothing really seems to come together for them. Do you really want to be the top paid star on that team and go a whole lot of nowhere? Something to consider.
Yeah. I think that's a perfect name to wrap up this episode with, Jackie. You wanted to mention Flyers tank efforts. Let's get the standings up here.
Had a good night last night.
What a night that was, man. I can't believe how much help they're getting down the stretch here. They're currently in 4th place here. Boston was on a massive losing streak. They were able to sneak out a win.
Wow, somebody. It was wild. Oh, yeah, that's it. The Devils. Yeah, last night was great. As the Sabres blanked the Hurricanes. Tage Thompson with his 44th goal of the year. How about that? As well as the Bruins blowing out the Devils 7-2. Who else? Penguins won 5-0 over. Well, that makes sense. Over the Blackhawks. Even the Predators, who are never going to catch, snuck out an overtime win against the Islanders. I mean,
see something funny here, real quick.
Kraken got blown out. But
the Sabres are on fire. They were on fire before they played the Flyers last month, and the Flyers somehow beat them. But so it just kind of made me laugh because before they played the Flyers, 3-game win streak, lost to the Flyers, and now they're on a 5-game win streak. So they've won 8 out of their last 9 games, and the only loss coming against the Flyers. It's kind of made me laugh a little bit. Doesn't look like
I was at that game. It's my fault. My fault. Yeah, the only other game tonight, I guess you want to keep an eye on, is we would like the Ducks to beat the Flames. That's like a 10 o'clock game. But yeah, man, I mean, the way I look at this draft, and we're going to start talking about the draft probably, I don't know about it. I want to know where we're drafting, and I believe the draft lottery is going to be around May 5th, 6th, or 7th this year. They haven't announced it, but that's typically when it is. So once we officially know where we're at, we'll really ramp up the draft talk. But from what I understand is they're really going to want to be before the lottery in the top 4, top 5. God forbid you get jumped and get, bumped back. And you could be jumped as many as 2 teams. The names that I like, they're not getting Schaefer and Misa are probably going to go 1 and 2. And I doubt we win the lottery, obviously. So I'm hoping that we can be in range of the next 3. And one of which I don't want them taking. That's the winger Martrone. Like, I hope that, like, Chicago gets, maybe they take him, probably not at 2, but we'll see. Somebody takes Martrone, and then you have Hagens, who I'd be all about. Fondell, I'd be all about. And then it gets a little shaky from there. We'll see. But you really want to be in that. I really hope they're in that top 5 when it's all said and done. I'll be happy with. I will be able to sleep tightly. And based on those standings, it's tight. It's tight. They can't afford to be beating the Rangers essentially with how things are shaping out. And need things to end the way they are now. Maybe they can jump one more team. I think we're 4th right now on that list, if I remember correctly. Yep. Yeah, so I think that would be ideal because they're not catching Nashville at this point. Obviously, San Jose and Chicago, they're not catching. Hold off Boston. Hold off. I forget who else is in there. Hold them off. But yeah, 4th would be ideal. 5th, I'll take. And then just pray that you don't get jumped. If that's the case, they're going to get somebody that we really like, I would assume, unless, draft is what it is. But somebody asked earlier in the chat about, like, oh, they go all in on Misa or whoever. I truly believe there's no chance they are able to trade up even with them being in the top 5 any higher, because it just doesn't happen anymore. It does not. You have to go back years to find a trade within the top 10. And that was the 9th pick, and that was for a young goalie. And I mean, you might have to go all the way back to the Sedin draft when those top picks were like really shuffled around. Does not happen. So fingers crossed the balls bounce our way or the standings bounce our way and the Rangers pull one out here. And 5 games left, fellas. 4 after tonight. See what happens.
Yep. You mentioned 4 games. They have a Saturday afternoon game against the New York Islanders where they come home for their first of their last 2 home games. They then travel up to Ottawa the very next day for the last back-to-back of the season. It's a 1:00 game on Sunday. And then they end the season at home on Tuesday night against the Columbus Blue Jackets and then finish up on the road up in Buffalo, which let's hope not, but that could be a pretty big game. So, a lot of winnable games left on the schedule. I think the Islanders are kind of bottoming out there as well. Ottawa's qualified for the playoffs. I'm not sure how much higher or lower that they can move up in the standings. I think I just read that Kachuk may not play again until the playoffs. Columbus, I'm not sure they can make the playoffs, so I'm not sure what they'll be playing for. And then we have Buffalo, who is hot right now, but somehow the Flyers have their number. So we'll see. 4 games left in the season, boys and girls. Get ready for draft talk. Get ready for conversations like tonight. What kind of moves they're going to make in the offseason, as crazy as they could be or as realistic as they could be. Drop your trade scenario in the comments, and maybe we could talk about them next week. So, that's going to do it for our episode tonight. Let me just get to the read here. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure you subscribe. Help us continue our quest for 1,000 YouTube subscribers. I checked just before the show. We were at 902. We're 98 away. So like and leave a comment for us on YouTube, Apple Podcast, or Spotify, and set alerts so you're the first to know when we drop a new show. And for all of our latest episodes, articles, and updates, head over to hwhockey.net. For Jack, I'm Jim. Don't forget to keep it high, keep it wide. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
Thanks, fellas.